Lads, welcome to the dev server roundup. We're going to be going through each nation nice and quickly. As you can tell, this is the T1E1. It's obviously unfinished as it's not painted and doesn't really have any detail on its meshes. It's basically just like the T1, but I guess a little bit up armoured. It's got the same M61 shell, so the same round as the Sherman. Pretty nice addition. America's lacking heavy tanks at low tier, so it might be able to bully around the Tigers a little bit. We then have the AH6M, sorry. This is basically a little bird that has been upgraded for anti-tank purposes. In real life, I believe these were mainly special forces weapons to get for like infiltration and exfiltration pretty quickly. We can see we can take 4 Hellfire Mark II, so 1200 meters of power, 1200 millimeters of penetration, sorry. Pretty nice potent weapon. It's obviously not going to replace your Apaches, but at 10.0 it's going to fit very well nice into the 10.0 American lineup, along with tanks such as the CCVL AGS and your M1128s. We then have a new premium for the Americans, which took me by surprise a little bit. I thought that the A6E was going to stay because it's actually quite a good battle rating, really, quite a niche one. Anyway, I believe this does have the Agile Eagle upgrade. Actually, I don't think it might do. I can't remember. It looks like it's an F4GA chassis because it's got the naval flare pod dispenser things. Anyway, so it's an F4S. It's actually an upgrade of the F4GA. You can see that we don't have an internally mounted gun, but we do have that very good pulse Doppler radar in the nose. Well, that's a very dodgy flight model there, or a player model, character model. We can see that we do have a HMW, a helmet mounted display, so basically the same as the MiG-29. We also have pretty decent radar as well as CCIPs for all of the, well, pretty much everything you'd expect for a late tier Phantom. Basically this is like the end of the line for the Phantoms, I believe. I think this is probably like one of the most modernized, at least for the Americans. If we take a quick look at the weapons, we can see that we're basically an F14, really. We've got 4 AIM-9Hs, and you can also take AIM-7Fs. So this is basically the exact same weapons found on the F14 Tomcat. You obviously can't carry as many. You can't carry the AIM-54 Phoenix as well, but I think this is going to be a very powerful premium. Borderline the most powerful premium in the game, especially with these AIM-7Fs. And if it has the same radar as the F4GA already in American territory, it's going to be very, very potent indeed. This is probably going to be one of the dark horses of the patch in my opinion. Might actually be worth paying it if you're trying to grind out the American territory, but it's just the dev server at the minute, so we'll have to test it on the live server. But with those helmet mounted displays in the AIM-9Hs, should be pretty good at dogfighting as well. Moving on to the boats, which everyone always loves, we have the USS Des Moines. I believe this is a 1948, so this is a post-war modification. We no longer have the 5-inch 38s, we've got the 3-inch guns, the 76mm. These are basically rapid-firing anti-aircraft guns, which are, I believe they do have proximity fuse warheads on them. Those are our secondary batteries. I think they do have proxy fuse warheads on these guns, so they are very, very potent indeed. But we've got the same 6-inch guns found on, well, the 8-inch gun, sorry, it's a heavy cruiser. Very high fire rate, I think it's a 6-second reload for these guns. It's going to be a decent premium. It's basically a premium version of the Newport News that we got last update. I've not actually got it on this account. So anyway, is it going to be worth the money? Probably not. It sits at battle rating 6.3, so you might get bullied by the big battleships really. There's not much 8-inch guns can do against those ships, especially something like a Scharnhorst. So, not sure why they're not decompressing the naval battle rating. They should be using naval as like a testing ground really, because not many people play it, let's be honest. Anyway, we then have the wide boy of the update, the USS Nevada. Now if we take a look at the tech tree here, we can see that the Nevada is actually coming before the Arizona. Now, I believe the Nevada was made before the Arizona, but as you can see here, the Arizona in-game is 1938, whereas the Nevada is a 1944. So we've had the 5-inch 51 caliber guns removed. These are what these dimples were here. These used to have 5-inch guns in them. Not sure. No, they've already been removed there as well. But basically, in World War I, 5-inch guns would have been there. So because of the lessons of the Pacific War, the Americans took all of the superstructure of their ships and basically added as much anti-aircraft firepower as they could. So we've got 8 5-inch 38 turrets, 4 on either side. Got a couple of 40mm Bofors L60s, I believe. Yeah, L60s. So again, very potent firepower. And then we've got the odd 20mm Oerlikon dotted about the place. So the firepower of the ship, it's pretty mediocre. The guns are alright. Got some nice high explosive shells with nearly 50 kilos of TNT. The main difference here though is we've only got 10 14-inch guns, whereas the Nevada has 12, I believe. But the trade-off that you get with the Nevada is you get a lot more anti-aircraft firepower. So the ship should be more survivable in theory. The armor is pretty thick. Don't know what that is. Is it 14 inches, 13 inches of armor? Anyway, it's a pretty decent ship. Can't really complain about it. However, it's a little bit... It's not got as much firepower, but better survivability and better anti-aircraft loadouts. Alright lads, welcome to the Germans. To start off, we have a little... Well, it's not a Squeezy Boy actually. It's on the Squeezy Boy chassis, I believe. If we take a look here, if I can find it, it used to be like this thing. It's the same chassis as this basically. It's just got an upgraded gun now to a 20mm gun. Same gun as found on the... I can't remember what they're called. Is it a Hanomag? No, it's the Hanomag's a half track, isn't it? Anyway, it's a nice little addition. Pretty fast with a high power gun. At low battle rating might be a little bit of a hard to balance, but should be some good fun. But not many people are going to be playing this for that long, I doubt. Then I have the MiG-29. This is finally coming to the German tech tree. It's coming, as you'd expect, at the end of the MiG-23 line. So another rank 8 for the Germans. You'll be happy to know that we do get the same firepower as the Soviet MiG. We get the ER, which is probably the best Fox 1 missile in the game at the minute. We also have the R60MK, so we've got decent medium and short range missile performance. We do have quite a lot of ground attack options as well. We've got the S8KO rockets, the S24, sorry. Napalm, don't really know why you use that, as well as a selection of dumb bombs. So, pretty nice addition. Basically just copy and paste, so not too exciting, but it's good that Germany finally gets its own sort of stuff. Speaking of, actually, I actually missed the T-72M1. I'm just reminding me about the East German side. So the T-72M1 is basically the same from the Soviet and the Finnish tech tree. 3BM22, which is pretty bad, to be honest. The T-72M1s are a little bit of a rough spot, to be honest. Excuse me. Bloody hell. They're a little bit of a rough spot. They don't really have good armor. The turret is pretty decent, but it's not the best. The gun is obviously alright, but the 3BM22, it's certainly no 3BM42. But it's good enough. Nice little addition. Hopefully Germany gets a lot of its East German stuff, like the BMP2 would be absolutely insane in the German tech tree. Anyway, so that covers it for Germany. Let's move on to the Ruskies. Alright, welcome to Russia, comrades. And to start, we have the M5359. This is a Czech anti-aircraft vehicle with 2 whopping big 30mm cannons strapped onto the top of it, or on the back of it, I guess. The gunner actually sits here, which looks very uncomfortable, especially considering it kind of looks like a Santa Claus sleigh. Anyway, excuse me. I do hope you'll forgive my cough. I can't really shake it at the minute. It's a bit annoying. We do have 91mm of pen though, which is quite impressive. That's not proxy? No. 91mm of pen though, so you will be able to use this against some sort of tanks, like the light tanks, medium tanks. Maybe not heavy tanks from the front, but definitely from the sides. Battle rating of 6.0. Can't really complain, to be honest. We then have the Panzer S1. Now the Panzer is just this thing on the back. The actual truck itself is just like a random Russian designation. Anyway, this thing is absolutely insane. You get thermal imaging, as well as the 95YA6. I believe we still get 4 actually. So it's basically a Tunguska on steroids. But these missiles, they have a maximum range of 18 kilometers and a top speed of 1300 meters per second. This means that these missiles are faster than the Flak Clarence Panzer. The VT1s, these are 1200. Yeah, excuse me, bloody hell. So, Soviet Russia now has the best anti-aircraft vehicle in the game by a long way. You have the fastest flying and longest range missiles in the game, as well as incredibly potent close-in protection with those 4 30mm cannons. This tank this anti-aircraft system can also fire on the move as well as guide. I believe it has like an auto tracker for the missiles, so you lock a target and the missiles will basically guide themselves onto the target. So very, very potent indeed. I don't know if this is new, but the K-50 can now take Iglas for some reason. Anyway, not sure if that's new, but finally for the Soviets, we have the Yak-141. This thing looks absolutely great from the front. Then if we turn around, looks awful. It looks like a MiG-25, sorry, had some sort of encounter with a Yak-38 and they had a baby. Doesn't look good. It's like a stretch MiG-25. Anyway, looks can be deceiving. Excuse me. We do get 4 R60Ms. Bloody hell, this is terrible, my throat. We also get 4 R27ERs. This is a very good lineup, or a very good weapon load, but it will leave you very vulnerable when it comes to close-in fighting. We do have a single 30mm gun as well, mounted just in the wing group. Or I guess under the fuselage, actually. Probably the better name for it. This thing is surprisingly agile at the minute. That may change in a future flight model update. It does seem quite a little bit turny. You'd expect it to be quite a bit of a brick, to be honest, but maybe Soviet engineers are really, really clever. Anyway, this thing is a VTOL aircraft. Doesn't really matter in War Thunder though, because you never use VTOL really. It's not like a Harry where you can engage VTOL at high speed and use it to change your angle of attack. So why was this added? Not really too sure, to be honest, but decent ground attack options, I guess. Decent missiles, so high performance weapons, kind of mediocre performance jet, to be honest. It can go supersonic, which I guess is, I don't know. I don't really see the point in this thing, to be honest. And let's be honest, no one really wants to grind down the Yak-38 tree to get this. I didn't even bother grinding these because they're all awful jets. So I don't see this thing being too good. MiG-29 is always going to be better than it, in my opinion. But anyway, let's move on to the Brit Bongs. So to start, an actual good change to the British tech tree, we're getting the Churchill NA-75. This is basically a Churchill 3, I believe, what's had a 75mm gun from a Sherman put in it. The only difference is this tank doesn't get a short stabilizer, so obviously it won't be stabilized like the other Shermans. We do get the M61 shell, so it's a battle rating 4.3 British tank, which actually gets an APHE round now, so pretty big advantage, to be honest, really. British tanks have always had a weakness of using solid shot ammunition, which makes it quite hard to get one-shot kills. But with this gun, it should be quite good actually. It should be a fun little tank, despite not having a stabilizer. Something that certainly does have a stabilizer is the Challenger 2E. This is basically an upgraded Challenger with a better engine, really. I've not upgraded this, but that seems suspiciously high. 2,000, oh, it's an arcade, that's why. 1,300, that will increase when you fully upgrade the engine. I haven't done yet, just for brevity. But we still have the same crappy armor scheme for the Challenger. Basically, all of this area here is very, very vulnerable to both kinetic and chemical energy, as well as the sides of the tank, really, and the lower frontal plate. But anyway, if an enemy actually hits any of the armor, it's very likely to be stopped, but obviously you got these massive weak spots here. The gun is still the same, L27A1, pretty decent gun, to be honest. Not as high penetration as some of the other guns, but that's because Britain uses 2-piece ammunition, which limits the length of the APDS. Right, so moving on to the Tornado F3. This is basically a air defense variant of the Tornado. We get an upgraded radar now. The AI Mark 24 Fox Hunter. We do lose one of the 27mm Mausers though. But I believe this is more than made up for. Our flares are now mounted internally on the, actually in the aircraft now. I believe they're on the rear of the plane here. I can't quite see them. But anyway, what makes this plane good inferior, we have the Skyflash Super Temps. These have a 7-second burn time, I believe, where the regular Skyflashes only have a 4-second burn time. But they're still going to have about the same range, really. They're not going to be that great. We do also have 4 AIM-9Ls as well. They're mounted to either side of the first wing pod here thing. So is this plane going to be groundbreaking? No, not really. It's just going to be a slightly better armed Tornado, to be honest. It's coming after the Lightning F6. It's not going to be revolutionary, but it's a nice addition to have. This is probably going to be coming for the Italians as well, I believe. I don't think the Germans ever used a air defense fighter with the Tornado, but it's certainly one of the best looking planes in the game. It's a shame it doesn't really perform that well. We then also have the Terra Nova. This is a Canadian boat. I think it's a frigate. I'm pretty sure it's a... I think it's in the coastal stuff. Yeah, coastal here. Got 2 3-inch guns. I don't know what the hell these are. They those mortar things. They look stupid. Anyway, we also have 3-inch... Oh, the same. A 3-inch Mark 33 and then a 3-inch 70 Mark 6. That seems strange to have 2 different types of guns. Anyway, no one's really going to be playing this tank. It's not really worth playing any of the coastal stuff, to be honest. And finally, the Lancasters have now got upgraded bombs. If we go here, you have the AUBC number 1. This allows you to install bombs in excess of £4,000. You can see here, you can carry an 8,000 pounder, which will destroy any vehicle within a radius of 105 meters. And a 12,000 pounder, which again, destroy anything within a radius of 105 meters. I imagine that this thing is going to change though. That would be insane on a map in War Thunder. Like, you'd be able to bomb out the entirety of a cap base and kill everything inside it easily. So this is probably going to get reduced drastically in size when it actually comes to the live game. But who knows, we'll have to wait and see. Right, so the Japanese, I do apologise for my voice. My throat is really sore. So the Type 16 is the new 8.7 Premium. The first thing I note is that it only gets M735, which is a little bit disappointing. It's the same round found on the XM1, and that tank is well known for having quite a weak gun. Also do have thermal imaging, as well as a laser rangefinder and warning receiver, so those are quite nice additions. Being a wheeled vehicle, it is kind of up to your proof. You can kind of, like, if you get an up tier, you can always kind of outdrive enemies, where you can't really do that with a heavy tank. So it should be quite a nice addition. It's certainly going to be better than the Type 74, because this thing is a bit of a pig at the minute. We then have the F-16AJ, which has been quite polarising on the War Thunder forums. I don't really see a problem with it, to be honest. The F-16 never flew for Japan. This was a proposal that Lockheed, I believe, or General Dynamics, whoever owns the F-16, they made this for Japan, but Japan rejected it. But Warp Gaijin have added it because this is like the only thing that Japan could get realistically in the next couple of years. The Japanese went with the F2, was it? And then the F-15J. And those planes are both too advanced to be used at the minute, so they've added this instead. I don't really mind it. I can see what Gaijin was trying to do. One of the biggest weak spots of the Japanese is their lack of close air support. So this really does bridge that gap, I believe. We also have 6 AIM-9Ls as well as the AIM-7F, so it's basically an ADF version of the F-16. Can also carry 2,000 pounders, the Mighty Mouse rockets, as well as AGM-65Bs. We don't have any GBU-8s, which is a little bit of a letdown, but considering that this thing is basically just theoretical, you can kind of see why they didn't push the luck with the add-ons. But same F-16 as we're used to, really. Nice. I believe that this is probably the most advanced F-16. I think that's true, but anyway, I'll have to double check it. And then finally for the Japanese, we have the Nenohi, whatever it is. I'm British, I can't pronounce foreign words. It's not really that good, to be honest. we do have the Type 93 actually. So we have the very fast, excuse me, we have the very fast long lance torpedoes, 500 kilo warhead, very, very dangerous. The problem is though with the Japanese, they've almost got more premium destroyers than actual destroyers themselves, so you're kind of spoiled for choice. Like the Yadachi is very good, but I think it's very expensive now. The Shimakaze, good as well, not premium, but like I have all these just from random tasks and events in the past. So I don't really know why you'd buy this if you've been playing them for quite a while. But I guess it's a nice addition no matter what. At the minute is one of the weaker nations coming this patch. We don't really have much. We do have the Skudikufus 222. Basically the same vehicle that I showed you in the German tech tree, except this thing has the older 20mm gun, I believe. This has a lower rate of fire, but I believe the magazine is 20 rounds instead of 10. Anyway, not really going to be playing this tank. I guess it's new to buff out the low tier Chinese nations, but not really for me. We then have the ZTS-63. Kind of looks like a PT-76 with a different turret. Looks like the turret of the Type 69 that's been put on. I don't know, maybe the Type 62 actually, yeah. Anyway, it seems pretty stupid. It does have APFSDS, the DJW85. And we do also have a laser rangefinder as well. So this is going to beat the IKV-91 for having a rangefinder at 7.3, as well as APFSDS. The fin round isn't the highest penetration, but at 7.3, sorry, it's still more than good enough, really. APHE round as well, 70 grams of TNT, not the best, but it will generally get the job done. Gun isn't stabilised, but with a laser rangefinder as well, we've got oh, it's only 7.6 to that. I thought it was a 12.7. Anyway, could be a nice addition, but again, China isn't really good at 7.3, but anyway, nice, whatever the cost. Italy's finally getting a new main battle tank, and to be honest, it doesn't really seem that great. This tank is probably a lot lighter than the other Arietes, which isn't really a great thing because the Arietes are not particularly fast and not particularly well armoured. But we do have an upgraded main gun round. We now have the DM53, but it is still only the L44 gun, so we have 623mm of penetration. But can't really criticise it, to be honest. No one really plays the Italian top tier anyway. But you basically lose all the additional armour. That's what makes it faster, really, because you've not got as much weight on the tank. We still do have the thermal imaging as well as a laser rangefinder though, so it's got all the basics there. It's just not really got any of the heavy armour or the high-end top speed, but a nice addition, I guess, and at least it's something new for the top tier Italian tech tree. Alright, so to start with the French, we have the 2C. I believe this is a tech tree version of the 2C bis. I believe this is the upgraded one, and this is just the regular one. Anyway, I don't think we have the 155 gun anymore. We have a 75mm gun. So we lack that high explosive damage, but we do have a APHE round with 55mm of penetration. So not the best, to be honest, but I just think the premium one is going to be a lot better, just because you've got that HE round which can overpressure pretty easily. But anyway, nice, I guess. Then have the MN Agile, I think it's supposed to be say Eagle. Pretty nice camouflage, to be honest. The French tech tree isn't coming this update, it's coming in the next update. If we turn off the torpedo mode, which you should on every boat, you have a top speed of 72 km/h for the torpedoes, which is pretty good, to be honest. The explosive mass isn't as good as the long lances on the Japanese, and our ammunition for the destroyer's guns, which are, that's a very weak, it's like 5.5 inches. We have HE and semi-armor piercing. Pretty decent, to be honest. Again, should you pre-order this? I wouldn't. 4.3 is a pretty good sweet spot for destroyers, but until we know how these guns are going to perform, I wouldn't really try and play with it. 5-second reload is alright. Same reload as the... No, it's not actually. It's a little bit longer than the American 5-inch 38 reload, but those American guns are auto-loaded, where these are human-loaded, so if your crew gets knocked down, then that reload speed is going to drop significantly. So this isn't going to be reshaping any naval metas, but the French naval tech tree is coming, so I guess that's good. But on to the Swedish. Alright, so for Sweden we only have one thing at the minute that I can recognise, and that is the ITPSV-90. This is a Chieftain Marksman turret put on the chassis of a Leopard 2A4. Yeah, it looks terrible. It looks really stupid. It's not exactly subtle, or it's not even charming really. Anyway, 30mm guns, or is it 35? Yeah, 35mm guns, sorry. DM23, pretty high penetration to be honest, but you're only going to have 40 of those rounds. You do have 70mm of penetration with your regular AP, which is pretty decent to be honest. The radar on this vehicle, sorry, has always been a little bit dodgy as well to be honest. There is one in the British tech tree, the Chieftain Marksman, and this thing is pretty dreadful. As soon as you get the ZA-35, there's no reason to use this to be honest. Compared to the British one though, because it's on the chassis of the Leopard 2A4, this thing should have better mobility, as well as better survivability to be honest, but you can just get shot here and kill you. 2 of your 3 crew members are here, so you're not really going to be survivable despite having composite armour on a air defence vehicle. I don't think this was ever put into mass production. I think it was just one prototype that was made, I think. But anyway, pretty decent vehicle. Let's move on to the next nation. Alright, and finally, the Macarver Mark IV LIC. This stands for Low Intensity Combat. It's basically a Macarver that they've converted to like a riot vehicle. So the machine guns are now, as you can see, controlled from inside the turret instead of having to be fired by somebody. They also have mesh on front of like the thermals and stuff. Basically like a police riot van. This was designed for counterinsurgency rather than peer-on-peer combat. So it's not really designed for facing enemy tanks. So, yeah, I don't really know why they've added this. It's like adding a police van to the game. They do have the M338 though. So it's basically just a copy and paste of a Mark IV really. It comes before the Mark IV M, but after the 4B. It's just a nice buff to the Israeli tech tree top tier lineup. We're still lacking light tanks, anti-aircraft vehicles, medium tanks, tank destroyers. But at least we've still got the Mark IID, which is a pretty decent vehicle. But anyway, that covers it for all the vehicles in the dev server at the minute. I do apologise for my voice. I can't get rid of this illness. It might be chronic. I might be dying for all I know. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, lads. I'll see you in the next video.